another view of P-Valley Season 2, Episode 5, entitled White Knight, which is very applicable for this episode, as there's a bunch of saviors of the sort in this episode. Now, this episode is a little bit different. I still like it. It's still in the theme, but it gives a little bit of backstory into Mississippi, or Keyshawn in particular, and how she gets to where she ends up. All right, but until we get to that, we are in Atlanta, and we're at the Sapphire, which I presume to be a popular strip club at the Legends Ball. And the Legends for this particular ball is going to be Miami Tip, Jessica Dime, and Gigi McGuire. I don't know who Gigi McGuire is, but I know who the other two are from the Love and Hip Hop franchises. And Keyshawn will be performing as the newbie tonight. All right, so Roman's negotiating some deals in the background with Keyshawn for her own lace front line, which is going to be lucrative if the deal goes through. So Rome says, her face is about to be everywhere. They sent her over some sample pieces for tonight, and she said, they all look ghetto. I ain't with this shit. Let me get something else. And she comes across his all blonde number, and he convinces her to wear it. She doesn't think it goes over her skin, but she tries it on anyway, and she ends up wearing that one for the night. And again, this is probably another sign of them trying to get her to appeal to another audience. But by the end of this episode, that's no longer the case, because the problem is going to be eliminated. Stick with me. All right, so they have 2 more weeks on the Dirty Dozens tour when it was only supposed to be 1 more. She is freaking out because she knows she got to get home to Derek. The promise was only, a certain amount of weeks, and it's going over that by another week. Rome claims that he had already worked it out with Derek. He talked to Derek. We're good to go. Just, get out and do what you need to do. And he claims that, he's going to save her. He's going to save her eventually, and that she ain't got to go back to Derek if she plays the game how he has the pawn set up, on the chessboard. And throughout this whole episode, we're going to be going flashbacks into Keyshawn's younger life and where she's at now. So there's going to be flashes between when she was a young adult in high school up until now, where she ends up as in the stripping industry. So, which I presume that high school year to be her formative year. This is her senior year in high school. This is where everything takes a change for the worse, in my opinion. All right, so Uncle Clifford is narrating throughout this whole episode, and he reminds us that, you can't save nobody until they're ready to be saved. This is going to be the theme. You can't save nobody until they're ready, till they're in a position to walk away from their current circumstances, which is always true in every case. No matter how hard you fight, how many teeth you pull, unless they're ready, ain't nothing you can say, ain't nothing you can do. All right, so Blue Guap Empire, which is Rome's management company, or whoever they are, they sentenced Rock to murder. He's kind of salty because he wanted to perform Mississippi Pride, but like Big T tells him, don't nobody want to hear that in Atlanta. Nobody wants to hear about your pride in Atlanta. Everybody's prideful about where they are, so nobody wants to hear about your Mississippi Pride. Even though he sampled some Atlanta classic, Baby D something or another, Big T is like, again, nobody wants to hear that. Rome shows up, and he's like, y'all still fighting? He's like, listen, ain't nobody fighting. We just talking with passion, as we do. Mind your business. And so Rome opens Little Murder's liquor bottle as if it is his own. And again, that is going to be a theme with Rome, thinking things are his, that he's entitled to things that aren't his. But again, take the ride with me. All right, So Murder is upset because he don't know why Rome didn't hook him up like he did Keyshawn. But again, by the end of this episode, you will know and see for yourself that you don't want the kind of hookup that Rome is handing out to people. All right, so the Puerto Rican princess, Miss Jocelyn Hernandez, she flies into the Legends Ball, making it rain over the crowd, and she's giving the honorees of the night their flowers on today, and she is doing it like it's her B-Day. And she introduces Keyshawn as the young buck on the scene, here to give the girls a show. And so Keyshawn is doing what she needs to do, and Uncle Clifford says that she's legendary in her own right. But before she can become said legend, we need to know exactly where she came from before we know where she's going to end up. So this is where we're going to start doing the flashbacks back and forth into Keyshawn's senior year in high school, back and forth between present and her past. All right, so we cut to the top of a cheerleading pyramid, and Keyshawn is struggling. She's having a hard time. She is, I presume, she's trying to make the cheer team, but she's not doing a good job. She appears to be one of the few black girls in this white space, which is strike one. And some white dude, which we later learn to know is Derek, comes in to help her after she's fallen from the top of the pyramid. So another black girl comes out of the crowd, and she wants to take a shot at the pyramid, her shot at being on the cheer squad, and she wants to do a 5-level stunt. She sticks the landing, and we learned that girl is Keyshawn's stepsister, Alicia. And low-key, she's trying to show Keyshawn up. Alicia is, because this is her stepsister. And we later learned that Keyshawn is a transfer in from Ohio. Now, this is sum it up. Keyshawn's dad left her mom to be with Alicia and Alicia's sister's mom by way of being a home wrecker. And Keyshawn and her dad are now transplanted into Mississippi from Ohio. And now they have to deal with that dynamic of these young adults and these adults being all in this house trying to figure out, the new dynamic. So she's a transfer in. A black football player is talking to her, and because she's not giving him the time of day, he calls her a burnt chicken nugget, which that was a dumbass insult to try to give out to her. But yeah. So of course Derek shows up to defend her honor again, the white knight of it all, and the football players are clowning him for being the cheerleading. So he turns to walk away, and the football player spits on him. Now, while I don't like Derek, what I dislike more than Derek is somebody else's bodily fluid that I don't know. So this football player, this black dude, spits on Derek, and he goes berserk. Now, like I said, I ain't Derek's biggest fan, but in the instance, you should have got your ass beat. I don't care who you spat on, you shouldn't have spit on nobody. So Derek beats him up, but what I thought I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like Derek said, "What the fuck, nigga?" But he said nigga with the ER, with the big with the Tony the Tiger on the end. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I think I heard that. So he is enraged, and people pulling him off, and he keeps getting back to the dude, and he is just, again, he is giving him a class A ass whooping, as he deserved, as he earned in this moment. All right. So the fight is going on, and once they get it broken up, that's done. We find out that Alicia makes the squad, but Keyshawn doesn't. And again, in comes White Knight Derek to console her on her loss, and tells her, if you had tried again, I think you would have made it. She tells him, my feet are too big. Don't worry about it. I'm good. So we see the football players walk out, and they got suspended. Also, Derek started the fight. Well, let's say Derek started the fight, but Derek didn't get suspended, but the football players got suspended. Even, so that's going to widen the divide between Derek and black people, because he seems to have some anger that's going to build up eventually. Again, we'll get into that later in the episode, but this may be one of his 13 reasons. All right, so we get home, and Keyshawn and her stepmother and her sisters are talking. They're getting ready for a pageant. So it seems like Alicia and her sister, not Keyshawn, I didn't get the other girl name, but Alicia and her sister, they're the fairer skinned of the sisters, and Keyshawn is sort of a Cinderella. Like, she is the servant, she the hairdresser to these stepsisters. The girls got pageant practice. They got all these pretty privileged type things that are coming on. And the stepmama mentions like, oh, it's such a hassle having 2 daughters, and Keyshawn is like 3. And she is very passive once Keyshawn corrects her on having 3 daughters and not 2. She's like, oh yeah, I'm still trying to get the hang of having to say that. All right. Point of contention number, I don't know how many at this point. And she tells Keyshawn, like, you need to go to cosmetology school, as if that's the only thing she's going to be good for, while her sisters are going to be pageant queens and arm candies and all these other expectations that she set for her children. All right. So her dad is on a business trip, but he's supposed to be back in time for one of the stepsisters' competitions. So she's sitting there daydreaming and burns the sister's hair out by accident. And the stepmama goes berserk. She is so upset that Keyshawn took away her baby's strength and how she's supposed to look at the pageant now. And the stepmama goes on to say, like, her beauty is tied to her hair, and you took away the one thing that made her beautiful. So her sister, while she's fair-skinned, the only thing that makes her beautiful is her hair. and she basically goes on to insult Keyshawn. Unlike you, she doesn't need a weave, blah blah blah. Whoop, just going on and on and on about ruining her beauty at this point. And if her hair's the only thing that makes her beautiful, is she really beautiful? Stepmama. Because y'all kill me with that, oh, my long pretty hair, whoop de doop de doop de doop. But life could happen. Life could happen. And them locks, those tresses could be taken away from you. And then what do you have to stand on? You don't know what to do with your life and you want to jump off something high. Let's not be so shallow. All right. And then I don't know why I trusted you with such a treasure. Again, just going on and on and on about this girl's hair. The stepmama seems more upset than the girls whose hair got burned, but we know how them types be, so we gonna keep going. All right. So we're at the school, and Alicia she's the it girl. She's the Rebecca George of the situation. She's the light-skinned sister out of the bunch, and she's just curving dudes left and right that are asking her to this Christmas ball. And the other sister, she got her salt and pepper haircut going because her hair is now short across the front. Gidget is there, and she don't want to go with nobody because she's like the white trash of the group, and she don't want nobody making fun of her Target outfit, so she don't really want to go knowing. So now the sisters they're too busy being mean to each other to be mean to Keyshawn for a change. So in the meantime, her and Derek are just sitting there making eyes at each other, and we already know they're gonna end up hooking up. So we learned in this episode that there was a clear color line in the Mississippi town, but humans love what is forbidden. I'm sorry. Anyway, as is many southern towns, there's a clear color line, but as is human nature, what's forbidden to us, we want it that much more. And so that's going to be the situation between Derek and Keyshawn. So she is caught up in the rain, and her and Derek end up getting food together. We learn that he's headed on a full ride scholarship to Ole Miss next year as their seniors. And throughout the episode, we don't really get an answer as to why. I would just chalk it up to maybe an injury or the fact that he got kicked out of his parents' house. I don't know what it was that ended his Ole Miss scholarship, but we know he's in between jobs currently, so that Ole Miss full ride scholarship never came into fruition, is my assumption. Anyway, so we also see in this scene Pastor Patrice. Before she becomes a pastor, she was a waitress. She was a waitress down at the restaurant, and she tells Derek, in true can't mind your business Patrice fashion, she tells Derek, like, you better be paying for this date, girl. You need to order some more food. From the well-to-do family he comes from, he got the money, so. And you better be paying for this date, like, basically, like, you better be doing this little black girl right, which is the most honorable thing that Patrice has ever said in this series, but we're gonna go with it. All right, and then she was like, if this was and so she says, Miss Patrice, this ain't a date, blah, 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 blah. So Patrice walks away, and she was like, well, if this was a date, like, where would we go? He tells them, they go get snow cones, and then they take a ride on a riverboat, which, okay, applicable date for high school seniors. But then she's like, all right, that's cool or whatever. But she asks a very important question. All that's nice and well, but would you take me home? And he never answers the question. He hems and haws around it and moves on very quickly, which should have been your red flag number 3 or 4. But she's in high school. None of us really had sound decision making skills as a senior in high school. So we're gonna let you have it. All right, so we're going to jump to Keyshawn's family. They are decorating, putting on Christmas decorations because it's that time. And they're talking amongst themselves, basically as if she ain't even there. And Alicia asked her mom, like, hey, Mom, how did James, who is Keyshawn's dad, how did he woo you? How did he, pull you in? And she gives this fairy tale about it being instant. Again, this whole white knight syndrome about it being instant. She knew the second she served him a drink on the airplane, and Keyshawn tells her, hold on, bitch. While you fantasizing, let's just remember that you gave my mom a drink first. So don't forget to add that to your fairy tale. And, of course, the stepmama don't want to hear it. She's like, your perspective ain't what it seems, little girl. You don't know what went on. And Keyshawn is like, I don't know all the details, but I know what the fairy tale that you're trying to portray to these daughters of yours. And she was like, the move in your head is missing some scenes, so let's just bring it back to some truth. So she reminds her, like, okay, so it's getting real tense between stepmama and Keyshawn. And she's like, listen, you're a homewrecker. turned homemaker. Like, you really low-key took my dad from my mom. Another point of contention in her life. Like, it's hit after hit. Like, you in this new place, nobody like you. You're too dark for some people. You're just too much for everybody. You don't fit in nowhere. Your daddy really ain't got time for you, which is probably a good thing at this point. But again, follow along with me. But anyway. And so there's a whole lot going on. So her and stepmama are going back and forth, and she sort of, stepmama throws food at her, like, go to your room. She's like, no, I'm not going to my room, because you were here telling a lie. And she's like, and the stepmama's like, see, you just like your mama. That's why James left her. And we're going to pause right here, because that upset my spirit. Because why do y'all do that? When y'all have a problem with the adults in the situation, y'all tell that to the kids. Oh, that's why your mama this, that's why your mama that, blah, 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 blah. Because at the absolute end of the day, a child is going to love their parent no matter what their situation is, whatever their obstacles are. So there's no benefit. You get nothing out of beating that person's parent down in front of them. So that pissed me off, because she ain't had nothing to do with why her daddy left her mama. So that ain't her cross to bear. But you now giving that to her on a platter. Thank you, stepmama. Oh, evil stepmama. I don't know that lady name, but I know she was on Days of Our Lives or one of them daytime soap operas. That's what happens when you're raised by your grandma. But I know her, and I know I didn't like her then, and I don't like her now. Probably never gonna like her at this point, because why would you do that to that girl? Anyway, so Keyshawn throws food back, and that's the end of the fight. All right, so we're gonna cut back to the club, and she asks, like, Jessica Dime, all the girls that are there to shout me out on the Instagram. She thinks she's made it, because these are the high profile girls in their respective industry. So Jocelyn shows up and gives her props, whatever. Jocelyn tells her, they'll always think of you as a hoe, but they'll never they'll never let you forget it, basically. They always think you're going to be a hoe, but they're never going to let you forget about it. But keep in mind that Cardi B always says that a hoe ain't never cold, which essentially translates to, kind of use what you got to get where you need to be, is what I presumed it to mean. So she invites her back to her suite for the after party, which will prove to be some bullshit by the end of this episode. But Keyshawn thinks she's made it at this point, being invited back to the suite by Jocelyn Hernandez. And if you know Jocelyn Hernandez, she don't like to keep her hands to herself, so that may not have been the best invitation to be excited about. Anyway, but again, we're gonna go with it. All right. And as I said, Uncle Clifford is narrating through the whole entire thing, so he's dropping his little gems as we're telling this story. So we're gonna cut back to the night of the dance. Keyshawn is not going because of her evil but her evil stepsisters are. They're getting dressed, and everybody's looking good, and it ain't that she wasn't beautiful enough at this particular point. She just didn't know it. Uncle Clifford definitely reminds us of that. Because if you ask me, Keyshawn was giving the girls what they needed to be given, and those sisters were not. But when you've been beaten down and told you the dark skin, you the dark one in the group, ain't nobody feeling you, blah 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 blah. At some point, you start to believe it. So Keyshawn has subscribed to this narrative at this point. All right. So they're in there taking family pictures, and her dad asked her to take pictures, not be a part of the pictures, but to be the photographer. And Clifford again reminds us that being pretty is cool and all, but being pretty also brings problems, which in this scene is coming in by way of James being a little bit too handsy with Miss Lightskin Alicia. So we see this because they're taking a picture, and he's pulling her in close to him, and his hand is a little bit more lower than it should be, than is an appropriate level, and you can see like kind of tears and like uncomfortability in her eyes, which lets us know like stepdad James is a little bit more comfortable with Alicia than she is comfortable with him being with her. If you get my drift. So at that moment, the doorbell rings, and it's Derek. Derek shows up again in his white knighthood with a dress and shoes and everything else that Keyshawn is gonna need for her to go to the dance. So they're upstairs doing sit-ups. She's got her Spanx on and everything else possible that she needs to get into this dress. So she shows up in her royal blue gown, giving the girls what needs to be getting all the head turns. All eyes is on them. And they end up under the mistletoe, and they share a little smooch or whatever. So she is on cloud 9 at this point, and nothing can really bring her down. She's feeling good about herself, and she is enjoying her time. Some lady was at the party fussing, and Derek tells us that it was his mom. But he also tells us that his mom, she's a kitten compared to his dad. Like, his dad is really the python. He will really whip your ass. And we realize that he has bruises on his face, and it's not from practice. It's from his daddy whooping his ass. So at this point, I've come to the conclusion that Keyshawn and Derek are trauma bonded, as some couples end up. They bond over their trauma, and they share that trauma, and then they create their new trauma bonds to each other, which is the case with Keyshawn and Derek at this point. So they broke the color lines that night, end up hooking up in the car. Do with that what you will. And she tries to tiptoe in later that night, but that evil stepmama hers is sitting on the couch, and while she's such a bad kid, I guess she's a good kid that night, because she beat the other two home. So she beat the other two sisters home, and again, the stepmama says, "Oh, you're the good kid tonight." She compliments on how well everything fits, but she reminds us, she said, everything fits good, but you didn't get an opportunity to pick it out. And then we get a cautionary tale that obviously Keyshawn doesn't adhere to, but it'll come into fruition later on in life. She tells her, hey, be careful of becoming a man's Barbie doll, because he'll always find another one to buy. And by that, we kind of get a glimpse into Keyshawn's future, but we also get a glimpse into stepmama's past and pain. Because for James, she may just be a Barbie doll that he lavishes with gifts and does whatever he wants to on these business trips, which may also compare to Keyshawn. While Derek has this nice, beautiful black woman on his hand, he is beating the hell out of her and treating her like crap at home. So it ain't all the glimmers ain't really gold, is the ultimate theme of that scene, in my presumption. All right, so we're gonna cut back to Mississippi's night down at the Sapphire Club, and she's coming up with her money for the night. They counted up with Murder and their team in the suite. Big T, why you so quiet? I'm straight. He got an attitude. We know he's salty about the postcard. So whatever. He don't want no damn strawberries. Wody the mortician and Keyshawn, they basically doing what black people do. They having a full conversation and ain't said a word. Cause Murder's like, let me go see what's wrong with this nigga. Like, let me go calm him down. So they looking at each other and they having a conversation, ain't a word been exchanged. Keyshawn is looking at him like, I think these niggas is hooking up. And Wody the mortician is like, hell yeah, I think so too, because it's giving lovers spat. It's not giving friend disagreement. It's giving it's giving very much lovers quarrel. And so they put two and two together right there in that moment. All right, so Rome shows up, and I'm sure he's coked out of his mind. And he's like, listen, y'all got that money ready? Y'all got that money counted up? Not just yet. All right, so when y'all done, we can slide through to Jocelyn's party. And so the guys think, okay, I'm ready or whatever. Give me the room keys so we can come back here and crash or whatever, and we can go. And Ron tells him, no, y'all not invited back to the after hour spot at Jocelyn's. Sorry to tell you, I've done all I can do for y'all at this point. Me and my cash cow, Keyshawn, we about to skedaddle. So I'm gonna holler at y'all later. And so he thinks he's done enough for them, which right and wrong. I mean, you're not their managers, so yeah, cool. But keep in mind that this is their tour. You and Keyshawn just happen to be on it, so it's probably a mutually beneficial relationship at this point. But I'm gonna let you have it. Big T throws the room keys and let him know, like, listen, I don't gotta be grateful for nothing because I don't need you to do me no favors. And he tells him, oh, this room too nice for you? All right, cool. I guess you're just used to a prison cot. Like, basically trying to insult Big T. And Big T is like, listen, y'all better get him. Y'all better get him. Like, he already on one. He already feels some kind of way. So y'all go ahead and get this man away from me. All right, cool. So Big T and Murder storm out, and she's talking to Wody the mortician, and she makes excuses for Rome. She's like, don't worry about him. He's just a jerk. And he tells her, like, girl, I don't like that hair. I prefer your natural hair. So they have that little moment. All right, so we're going to cut back to Derek and Keyshawn being in the throes of their first baby being on the way. His mom sits some clothes over. Keyshawn doesn't like the colors. She doesn't like something about the clothes. Well, you need to be grateful. My mom is doing the best she can. Oh, so now she's trying to be nice to me when she really didn't even like me at first. She told me that I was a gold digger, and so I really ain't feeling this sudden case of niceness, is what Keyshawn is saying. And so Derek is upset because she's not overjoyed about the fact that his mom is doing something for them. And he just goes into this whole spiel about, I never should have messed with you. She thought you was a gold digger. And now I'm stuck with you and some backwoods bitch and a baby. And she's like, who's helping who? Like, I'm working nights at Walgreens to put money in your Honda or whatever your little menial car is, and I'm helping you out. And so he is just overtaken with emotion at the fact that this little black girl he's stuck with is doing more for him than his own mama, his own family. Shit in general, but this is what his life has become. So he starts to choke her out. She's the reason that his family kicked him out, and he never should have ever talked to her. And he thinks that she trapped him, and he didn't choke this lady until she done blacked out while pregnant. Girl, if that wasn't your sign, I don't know. Maybe this is the first time this has happened. And we learn, like a little piece of her died in this instant, as do a lot of people. Like every traumatizing event, a little piece of, your full person, your full potential definitely dies. So this happened in this instant. Again, if that wasn't enough red flags for you, it would have been for me. But we got to go through the grow through, I guess. Let's just keep it going. All right. So if y'all hear fireworks, y'all know what day it is. Just pretend it's not there. All right. So Keyshawn is with Rome because we get ready to go to, to Johnson's spot, to after hour spot. And he got on his robe, but he ain't dressed at all. And he claims he was on the phone the whole time, and the wig deal fell through. And he claims that he has something even better. And he has these stripper heels in hand. Oh, there's a stripper heel deal instead. And she's like, while Keyshawn is gullible and naive, she ain't no slow leaker. She's like, listen, 3% of gross is fine, but it's only to a specialized market. Like selling stripper heels is only for the stripper market. The lace wig deal would have fared better because it's a broader audience. Everybody wears wigs at this point. So money-wise, that definitely makes more sense. And so he's like, just try them on with your outfit for the night, and we'll talk about it. Just try them on. If you don't like it, we'll get to it. So she's in there, trying it on with her stripper outfit for the night, and he pops around the corner with his robe open and his whole birthday suit exposed to her. And he is pushing up on her and basically doing whatever slime ball manager does in the beginning of somebody's career. He can make her dreams come true, and he could do so much for her. She ain't, and she's not with it. Oh, you don't want to strip for me? Ain't that what you do? And she tells him, yeah, I'm a stripper, but I'm in full control. I give these people symbolic gestures to make them think that they're going to get some ass, but they don't. So what you're trying to do is outside of the scope of the fantasy I provide for my customers. Right? So, and so now he's finna do this power trip. Oh, all I've done for you thus far, Keyshawn. And she's like, well, so I owe you now? And he's like, yeah, you basically do everything. So now he's gonna hold all of her deals and her future over her head at this point. Everything so basically he has put all her deals into a pending status until she sleeps with him. Everything is pending until you do what you gotta do. So everything is pending at this point, and he's not pushing the yeah on any of her deals until she sleeps with him. And then he goes on to further explore her by saying, yeah, everybody's got a movie to include murder. Yeah, I saw y'all kissing in Memphis, but I know that that's a front. I know he didn't like it. I know he might be with Big T. And then he goes to show her proof by way of somehow being able to by way of having a video of Murder and Big T hooking up. All right, so cool. He was able to get a video. He's calling him the F word, and he's saying that you ain't nothing but a hoe, and both of y'all really out here faking. So I'm about to go for mines. So he rips the girl's shirt open and he attempts to rape her, and she was able to fight him off, and she runs out the door. All right, so now we're going to cut back to her being pregnant at her dad's house. Well, she's pregnant, and this is after Derek has choked her till she blacked out. She was able to walk away that time, and she goes to her dad's house. Of course, evil stepmother is there and tells her, I'm sorry, but I can't have my other daughters around this. And she's like, I know, but I made a mistake. I really need just to be here for a while, to get it. I need some solace. She's looking for assistance. And she was like, no, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. So you can't keep coming back when it gets tough. And she sends her away. She sends the pregnant, battered woman back to her abuser's house. And of course, we know in our community that happens more often than not. just because you didn't heed their warnings. What is life but a culmination of your decisions? I even parents do that as well. Like, what's the point in you having children and they can't come home when they need to regroup or get themselves together, or for you to lend your assistance? But obviously those ain't that kind of people, so that don't even matter. Anyway, all right, so Keyshawn was able to run away from Rome, and she ends up in Wodie's room. He opens his door, and she's like, I was so dumb. Like, this is so stupid. She tells him everything about Rome and him trying to rape her, and about the murder tape, and, him knowing about murder being on the DL. And now she want to go home. She is done. She don't care about nothing y'all talk about. I'm out. So we know she leaving the next day. And so now we jump back, and now that her stepmother has thrown her, didn't let her in, she has no choice but to go back to Derek. He has flowers waiting and profuse apologies, and claims that he is going to be better than his dad. He ain't going to do it again. Of course, we know he's going to do it again and again and again. And claims he wants to be better than his father ever was. And again, we know that he's not going to be. All right, so we jump into current times, and she is back home from the tour. But she is relieved and uneasy. Relieved because she don't have to be around Rome no more. But she's uneasy because she has to walk back into Derek. So it's like out the fire, into the frying pan at this point. So she's back in the house, and the babies aren't used to her or uneasy. So the son, Jaden, he is just crying. She can't touch him, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. But we'll get to it. And it's like, why you back so early? She's like, She kind of lies. She lies. She says Ron wants us to regroup. And he's like, but he called to extend. She's like, yeah, but he overbooked. He's going to rework the schedule. It's okay. And then she's talking. She's like, well, Jaden is a little bit more upset than he should be. I've only been gone 2 weeks, so what's really going on? She takes his baby to the doctor. And he has an elbow joint dislocated, which could be standard, for a baby. The doctor writes this off as, this is standard. And that kills me too. Everything ain't standard for everybody. Do some x-rays on this doggone baby. Anyway, the nurse notices he also has bruises on his back. And that leads us to believe that Derek has beaten that baby black and blue. He cannot stand that the baby's crying. He can't really stand nothing about it. He's just taking all of his frustrations out on this 3-year-old at this point. And so, she comes home and she puts the baby down, and she's like, Derek, let me holler at you, player. First of all, let me just insert this. Had I seen a baby with a broken arm and bruises, I don't know how they didn't start an investigation of sorts at this doctor's office. That was interesting to me, because typically that amount of injury in a visit would prompt you to file some sort of report or wellness check or something to that effect. But they just put his arm in a sling and sent them on their way. All right. Derek is there ironing a shirt for an interview, and she shows him the doctor's report of what happened to baby Jaden, and he's like, well, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. And she's like, listen, you could beat me all you want to, but not my children. This ain't what we doing. And so he's like, look, what you mean? He gets spanking, he's driving me insane. But she's like, he's only 3. Like, a spanking and a dislocated elbow and bruising, not the same on the punishment scale. And he gives that same excuse that adults give. Oh, well, I got a spanking at that age, and I turned out fine. People, especially my people, stop saying that. I got whooped and dragged and beat like a dog, but I'm just fine. No, you're not. You can't sustain any relationships. You can't relay messages. Everything is wrong with you. Just because you didn't die doesn't mean that nothing's wrong with you. Stop beating them damn children like they dogs. That does not equate to effective punishment, okay? This is from me to you. Anyway, moving right along. And so she's like, listen, we leaving because you ain't supposed to be doing that. And he compares Jaden to straightening out a tree when they're young. And she's like, listen, you're much better than this. Like, you don't have to do this. And then he really not listening, so she gonna take a jab at him. She says, okay, well, what's the point of going to the interview? You ain't gonna get the job no way. I mean, because that's been a history with him. Like, you going to all these interviews, but you're not sealing the deal. You're not getting a job. So it's like, listen, I'll do it myself. I'll keep taking care of my 3 kids, to include you, Derek. And that just sends him off. He slaps her in the face. He is beating her up. He is dragging her down the hallway. And he goes to take the iron that he was ironing his clothes with, and he was about to burn her face, and she is begging and pleading with him, like, if you're going to burn me, cool, burn me anywhere, but just don't burn my face. She knows, that's her money maker, whether it's on the stage or on the internet. Burn me anywhere. And so, he has a sane moment and doesn't burn her at all with the iron. But he does let her know, like, I'll discipline my kids anyway. I want to. So now she's stuck again. She had such a great plan to get out of the house, and it just all fell to the wayside by way of Rome being a freaking pervert. But it's okay. He not gonna last through the episode. He gonna be dead after this, hopefully. All right, and I'll tell you why. So Wardy shows up to the party, and let's just be glad that Keyshawn didn't make it to the party, because while it is a party and she was there to strip and make some extra money, there was a whole lot of boot knocking going on, and she might have got tied up in some other stuff, some Players Club type stuff, had she come to the party. So that might have been another bullet that she dodged. Anyway, Wardy runs into Rome, and he is just geeked up, and he brought him some coke to do, and Rome tells him, to hit it first, and he seems to have tricked him. He did a line of coke, but that was so. Wardy brought him some coke, but it's 2 lines. The first 2 lines is what Wardy gave him. The third line is coke pre-existing coke that was already there. He took the pre-existing coke, and the other 2 are for Rome. All right. So what we gonna do about Keyshawn? This is what Wardy's asking him, and he's like, "Listen, she a dime a dozen. We'll get anybody to stand in her place. I'll get another one of my artists to come in, open up for a little murder. We'll be all right." And he's like, don't nobody really know murder. He ain't popping like that, so it's gonna be good. So they just chopping it up, and then he starts to cough. And then he's getting lightheaded. Then he's getting discombobulated, and he realizes, like, the coke he took probably wasn't coke, or it was spiked or something, man, right? And so Wardy, we know he's a mortician, and he's very morbid. So while this man is perishing in front of him, he's like, have you ever seen somebody die? He's like, yeah, my mama. It ain't pretty, is it? No, not really. So how do you want to be buried? Like, telling, just giving him like gory stories, and tells him, like, death can be 2 things. It could be obvious, or it could be a sneaky motherfucker. Unfortunately, you have my assistance in meeting your eternal rest. Where's the movie you got to murder? He doesn't answer the question. What movie? Oh, don't worry. Keyshawn told me everything. Now he's losing consciousness. He's losing his ability to breathe. His eyes is looking bloodshot. It's getting real grim for old Romy Rome. And he shows him, like, look, it was a bottle of fentanyl. So he has overdosed on fentanyl, and it's night for Rome. He immediately ODs. And I don't know why I'm so excited, but I am. That was it. So that is hopefully the end of Rome in the series. Hopefully, they're not able to pump his stomach. I'm pretty much done with him. He was definitely a creeper from the beginning of it all. So that is it for P-Valley. This episode, like I said, outside of the normal scope, I do look forward to seeing more backstory for some of the other girls, more specifically Autumn and Mercedes. Well, Autumn, Mercedes, and Clifford. Those 3 are definitely, and Roulette. Roulette's a little interesting. So those people, I would love to get more backstory. Maybe not a whole episode's worth on some people, but definitely Mercedes and Autumn. I can get a 4-hour backstory on them. I'd be good to go. But that is it again for season 2, episode 5. Drop down below and let me know what you think about the episode. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.